Don't know, look around for the exit nearest you. If you hear an alarm, pick up your stuff and proceed cautiously down the stairs. And we assemble in Cesar Chavez Park, kind of off towards the Citizen Hotel, that end of the park. And if you care to join us, then you'll know when the all clear comes and we can come back in. Please also take your noisemakers and set them on stun, if you don't mind, just out of courtesy. And then finally, because this meeting is being webcast and recorded, when you come up to the microphone, please speak clearly, but speak into the microphone. You have to get closer to it than is comfortable. But we want everybody who's listening over the web, in addition to the people in the back of the room, to be able to hear everything you have to say. With that done, we're on to public forum, and the public forum is to hear from any person who has a comment for us that's not on an item on the agenda. We have 2 this morning so far. Fill out a blue card if you'd like to speak on this or an agenda item, and hand them to Janine Townsend. So our first commenter is Libby Uramovic from Citizens of Beaumont. Good morning.
Good morning. Do I need to pull this down?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no, in front of your face.
There you go. Right there. My name is Libby Uramovic. I'm here to talk to you today about the city of Beaumont. In 1993, the city of Beaumont was supposed to build a wastewater treatment plant in expectation of putting in a housing developments. For 20 years, the Water Control Board in Santa Ana was supposed to make sure this wastewater treatment plant was built and functional and Title 22 compliant. Now we know it never happened. They never built the plant. They stole all the money. For 20 years, when they would try to regulate them in Santa Ana, they would change operations that was just changing the letterhead on stationery. The same people have been in there for 20 years. I brought you the timeline. I brought you the documents. I brought you the statements where the city claims they have a state-of-the-art wastewater treatment plant, and they never built anything at all. 10 years ago, Rick Glick from South Coast Water Quality Management sent out a memo stating to people, this is a scam, that the people in there that are the project developer and the city manager and the engineer, it's a scam. They're running a business out of there. They're just in there to grab money. It turns out they have stolen $450 million. There's no wastewater treatment plant. There's 40,000 people living in the high desert, and their estimated water supply of drinking water is 3 to 4 years. All they have is the Beaumont Basin and what the state sells them. Last year, the state sold them 0 water. They have no recycled water and 3 to 4 years water supply, and that's it. The regional board, the Santa Ana Regional Board, has a deadline of December 30th where the city is supposed to produce recycled water. They have never applied to be Title 22 compliant since 2007. So what they've come up with, let me tell you, the water district gave up. The water district installed purple pipes. They went out and got loans. They did what they had to do, but the city could not produce recycled water. So the water district is attaching to Yucaipa to get recycled water from them. But now they have to pay that. So what the city has come up with on their November 18th agenda, 6 o'clock tonight, is they're going to sell recycled water to the Morongo tribes. They're going to take the water that the citizens of Beaumont pay for through the water district. The city is going to take it and sell it to the Morongo tribe. But the big problem is they don't have recycled water. This water is not Title II compliant. It has never been Title II compliant. If they send that water to the Morongo tribe, they're going to not only ruin those golf courses, but they could infect thousands of people by letting them use this recycled water. When you go on the Morongo tribe's website, The same operator of Morongo's wastewater district is now the same operator as Beaumont's wastewater district. It's a company called Utility Partners. Have you heard of them? Of course not. They're from Mississippi. Your state agency gave an operator's license to a man who has a residence in Mississippi. Do you really think he drives in from Mississippi? You know where Mississippi, Gulf Point, the state of Mississippi? He don't drive 2,500 miles to do a job. They have one client, Beaumont. It's fraud. It's horribly, horribly wrong.
Can I ask you a favor? Can you take that information and give it to John Bishop, who's our chief deputy over
I have brought
water
this for
quality as well as Division of Financial Assistance?
Okay, I have brought these documents for you. I've also brought you the name of the state controller, the FBI, and the district attorney. It's a big, ugly case, but you guys have got to step in and do your job. They cannot be allowed to circumvent the regional board anymore. These people do not have recycled water, and that's the bottom line. But wait, I'm not done. Not only has the Santa Ana Regional Board refused to regulate and control the city of Beaumont, July 1st, a Beaumont citizen stood up and complained because that city has sent the Santa Ana Regional Board on her property to fine her and penalize her business in retaliation for speaking up against the corruption in Beaumont. This is a councilman in Beaumont saying, I turned her into the regional board myself as a private citizen because she was contaminating the water down there. And I'd like to report also that, I don't know, but maybe somebody should get a hold of the state again to make sure that they are checking up on their best management practices. Because I happened to drive by there the other day, and I noticed she doesn't have those rolls up to control the runoff from her property. He threatened her with the regional board again. Not only did the regional board fail to regulate, but when this corrupt city wanted him to step on a private citizen, they ran for it, and they stepped on that private citizen. You got a problem in that regional board that has got to be corrected, okay? Here's all the documents.
Great. If you could give those to Mr. Bishop, then he can look into it. And then maybe you can even, if you can stay around, you could talk with him at the break, if that would be all right. We'll take a break at some point
He's
this
got my
morning.
card. I got to go back to work.
Okay.
They can call me. I have spoken to the regional board. I've spoken to your lawyers to
Okay.
tell me they are actually your lawyers and they don't have anything to do with the regional board. So that's why we're here.
Okay.
The buck stops right here. You guys have got to get that regional board to quit letting this city slide. They have to be accountable. And let me tell you, the regional board also has a plan, a 5-year plan for them to build this recycled waters treatment plant now. $69.5 million on the city's budget to build it now. In 5 years, it'll be ready. They don't have $69 million. The state has revoked that $8 million wastewater treatment bond because they stole all the money. That's $8 million. They don't have it. They have 3.8 in the LAIF account and about $1.5 million in their general fund, and that's it. They can't build a wastewater treatment plant in 5 years or whenever. The Western Riverside Council of Government just won a $42 million lawsuit against them because they stole all of their TUMP fees. They stole everything. Those people don't even have a fire station up there because they stole all the fire station mitigation fees. They have a bad, bad problem. But everybody has got to step to the plate and do their jobs right now, okay? Those people are in a bad shape and they can't keep letting it go, okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's big. Okay. Thank you very much. Next, Sean Bothwell to talk about the OTC policy, interim mitigation fees, but not the Diablo Canyon issue from later. Thanks. Very good understanding of the use of public comment time.
I thought I would be very specific in the card to
Yeah, that's always helpful.
preempt something.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair, board members. My name is Sean Bothwell. I'm the staff attorney for the California Coastkeeper Alliance. And as Chair Marcus said, I wanted to raise an issue for the board and staff regarding the once-through cooling policy and the interim mitigation fee. It's my understanding that currently the way the policy is written is there's language in there that the facilities need to start paying an interim mitigation fee if they're not in compliance by October 1st, 2015, and then up until when they come into compliance with the policy. The policy is specific on that. It talks about where the money can go, but it seems there's a placeholder on what they actually have to pay, the amount that is actually paid. And I think it's leading to some confusion and some unclarity at the local, regional level of exactly what is expected from them on October 1st.
Pretty soon, right.
That's right. And so that's why I bring up the issue today. I know that the State Board's been working with an expert panel through the desal policy to feel their way through how the formula is going to be done and determine how that'll occur. But to my knowledge, it hasn't been finalized. There hasn't been action taken to really come up with what that formula is going to be for those regional boards. And so there's, for example, AES down in Huntington Beach is up for its renewal. In the permit, there's, again, placeholder language in there that they will start paying this fee October 1st, 2015, but they kicked the buck back to you to say, what is the fee? And so there's uncertainty there of what they need to do. So I wanted to raise that issue here today and recommend that, there is the Diablo issue that we're going to talk about later today. I see that as maybe a good opportunity to do both at the same time so you're not reusing resources later down the road. We get the process started now, whether you have to reopen the permit. You can have those discussions maybe at the same time to save resources. But I think the bottom line is there is unclarity out there. People are confused about what the fee needs to be, and we would like to see the State Board start to take action, really concrete figure.
Here's my question. I'm going to look obviously at Jonathan. This morning is for you. This is all about you day, Jonathan.
Always.
I just assume that we'd be dealing with the mitigation fee when we do the desal policy, which we'll do well before October, right? No? Or is that separate? Obviously separate.
They're based on the same approach, but it won't necessarily address the issue in the once through cooling because it'll be for desalination plants. But the process and the approach will probably be the same. So I will look into it.
Yeah, maybe just see what the most efficient way to deal with it is.
From our understanding, staff has been trying to keep them separately. And the reason for that, from our perspective, is the way the equation works.
It's different.
Once through cooling is interim, and desal is in perpetuity. So that it skews the.
Okay, I see why it might be different.
Yeah.
That's just where I focused on the issue because I wasn't here for the OTC policy being adopted. Yeah, can you just figure that out? So if they're confused, we should figure out how to help them not be confused in a timely manner. But I wouldn't necessarily want to combine it with Diablo. Just not necessarily going to be more efficient, but.
Okay. We will take care of it.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for bringing that up. Okay. Moving right along. Minutes from November 4th. I'd entertain a motion. What? Do we not have any?
Well, I need to be recused since
Oh.
I wasn't here for that.
Oh, you weren't here. Oh. Okay.
I'll move.
I
I'll
move-
move. Okay.
I second.
I don't believe you were there either, Ms. Spivey Weber.
I wasn't, you're right.
We can't do this until Dee Dee gets back.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. There's a
Technically,
motion.
If you wanted to, you would be able to carry it on 2 votes at this point in time, if
Do-
you wanted to, or you can defer and wait for.
It's not, yeah,
Ms.
it was a
Giordano.
pretty straightforward meeting.
Yes.
Would you like to make a motion?
Yeah. I thought I did. Yeah. I move.
So can I
adoption of
second
minutes.
it,
Yes, Jen.
Sven? I second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And those
Okay.
abstaining?
Motion carries.
Abstain.
Sorry, should have been simpler. Sorry about that. Board member reports.
Yeah, you looking my way? I'll just be quick. I attended the Region 3 meeting. It was a 2-day meeting. It was a packed agenda. As I mentioned at the last State Board meeting, there was a day spent, more or less, discussing the Cambria discharge permits and another land disposal permit for brine related to their proposed operation. That's an emergency project. And a lot of discussion was around the exemption to CEQA that's contained in the governor's executive order declaring the emergency drought. And so that was of great interest locally. Chair Marcus asked me last meeting what the project is, and it's quite complicated and yet innovative in many ways. It involves the beneficial reuse of wastewater through recycled water, but pumping from a well adjacent to existing secondary perk ponds for land disposal, and then putting that through reverse osmosis and an advanced oxidation process, UV and hydrogen peroxide, before injecting into a well up gradient from the existing water supply wells. So this was an opportunity for our Division of Drinking Water to really work hand in hand with our regional board staff to verify the public safety, public health components of this innovative project to reuse recycled water beneficially to augment water supply. Of course, this is very complicated. There's also a mitigation for the water that the creek may lose, which it supports, an estuarine lagoon ecosystem. So there's that component. So I guess that's why it took 7 hours to get through the public hearing. But it was adopted, and we'll be watching that closely. Also, I'm pleased to let you know that the regional board, Central Coast Board, has approved the executive officer's determination, acceptance of a groundwater monitoring approach, a coalition approach from the agricultural interests. And that problem was solved by creating a little more transparency so that regional board staff can trace which wells do not meet the nitrate standard and what kind of notification has been made to residents that they should not be drinking that water. So the regional board there's a mechanism now that they came up with, so the regional board staff can confirm that the notification has occurred and yet still protect the privacy of the landowners that have been forthcoming to provide the information. So it's a delicate balance, but I want to congratulate Central Coast, I think, in making a step forward toward transparency, but still protecting private property rights. So it's a challenge. So anyway, I want to acknowledge that work.
Interesting.
And that's it.
It's big.
That's all.
Two things. One, I attended the San Francisco Bay Regional Water Board meeting, and they had a 2-day jam-packed meeting, but the only item I'll mention today, as a quick heads up to my colleagues as well as to staff, was they spent almost half an hour on a public forum issue, and it's the third time, to my knowledge, that's been raised before the San Francisco Bay Regional Water Board, and that's the issue of trash as a result of homeless encampments. Clearly, this is an issue not just for the San Francisco Bay Regional Water Board, but others, and it also ties into the trash amendment that staff is working on and how we will address the issue of trash from non-point sources. So I want to give staff a heads up on that. Also,
Can I ask a question? While you're, wouldn't that fall into the notion of high-volume trash areas if it is that significant?
So, not to spend too much time in intricate details, but the implementation plan in the trash proposal has two parts. One is regulated under the MS4, and most of these encampments aren't connected by an MS4 system to the water body.
Really?
They're adjacent to the water body, and so the MS4 isn't included. So there is a portion that talks about high trash generating areas that are could be subject to waste discharge requirements that are not under the MS4 purview. So that's the area that we would need to look into.
All right. Sorry.
well,
I
the speakers who
confused
spoke
me.
at the regional board meeting in particular were focused on efforts in the city, or efforts by the city of San Jose. And they believe those efforts to be inadequate. They're encouraging the regional water board to exercise their authority to protect water quality from trash. And they have formed a citizens group, and the heads up to Mr. Pohemus is that they will be approaching the state water board for cleanup and abatement account funding to pick up trash and to provide portable toilets for these encampments. So a topic that I think we will be tackling at some point. And then my second item that I wanted to report on is I've had the opportunity and really the privilege to meet with many of the Drinking Water Program District office staffs, also attended 2 of the draft safe drinking water workshops that were held in Salinas and Fresno. And I have to say I have been extremely impressed by just the staff whom I've met, their expertise, their dedication, their enthusiasm at being, part of the water boards. So I encourage all my colleagues to do the same as your schedule allows. It is a tremendously, I think, important for us to get to know the staff and vice versa. I think they bring such great sense of commitment and sense of drinking water mission to our organization. So we just want to say thanks to all the staff who've welcomed me into their offices and have spent time with me. I also wanted to report back on a couple of things. In discussing with staff about the transition, I've heard nothing but glowing praises and appreciation for the services of the Division of Administrative Services and also Division of Information Technology. I think we sort of take it for granted, at least I know I do, when the computer works, when, the TECs are processed, and so I never really, stopped to thank all the staff in DAS and DIT for the services that they do, but in meeting with the drinking water program staff, there is so much appreciation out there for just the excellent customer service and the excellent attention and efficiency which both staffs have provided to the drinking water program during this transition. So kudos, Darren, and I don't know where Kathy is, but thank you to both of you and your staff for the work during this transition. And then since I always like to give assignments during my board members report, I'm now
They
looking at...
get praise, you get assignments.
Yes.
You like getting that? Like,
That's the privilege, Ms. Turkovich, of being part of the executive team. Which reminds me, several months ago, the board had an item with respect to revising our mission statement to include the drinking water component. Could you give us a status report on when that might come back to the board?
I believe that part of the direction, actually, from you, Member Dodek, was to come back with a more comprehensive or contextual discussion about how we would go about updating our strategic plan more generally. And staff in the Office of Research Planning and Performance have been a bit overwhelmed lately. And so it is likely that they will be able to get to it as the conservation work for this coming month, so the reports that are coming in right now are processed.
Well, here's a suggestion. Instead of perhaps now, since ORP is occupied with other work, why not ask the drinking water program to work on that and bring something to us?
In terms of providing some contextual framework for updating the strategic plan overall?
Why not?
I'm certainly happy to pass on that assignment.
So, but please get back to us on that, because I don't want to, now having talked to some of the staff and get to know them and seeing how important it is to integrate that into our mission statement, I guess I'm trying to light a fire under your feet to get moving on that.
but how would you feel about, because I'm the one who delayed actually doing the mission statement language.
And
which
I actually
we were on
concurred.
the verge of doing it, but how about just going ahead with that sooner than waiting for the integration,
And
strategic
actually,
integration?
I would support that.
So why don't we just do that? Again, I'm sorry I didn't have the chance to really focus on it adequately, but maybe we can try and do that. I know Board Member Moore was eager for us to move forward on that. So.
That's something we could put on the agenda in the very near term.
Oh, that'd be great.
Excellent.
Okay.
And then I'm not finished with assignments and
Okay,
stuff
of course. Go ahead.
yet. I guess not an assignment, but more of a request. I mentioned earlier how wonderful the transition has been, and I still stand by that. And perhaps you've already thought about this, and so I'll just add my 2 cents, and that is, in transitioning the drinking water program, I hope that we also take the opportunity to look at things that are working really well there, and tools and capabilities they have that perhaps could enrich and enhance the water board's operations. In my various discussions
That
with
which was formerly the Water Board.
Yes,
Yes.
formally. In my various discussion with district staff, I mean, it seems like there are certain tools that they had which may be transferable to us or may be replaced by something equally efficient. If that's the case, that's fine, but I would ask you to, in the midst of all this transition, also keep in mind things such as, one of the things that keeps coming up in my meetings with staff is SharePoint and the use of that as a platform for staff from different districts to work together on a document And, that seems to be a capability that they're sort of missing right now. And, other capabilities such as, one of the things that Ms. Turkovich I'm really interested in is the issue of time tracking with respect to, how much staff resources are spent on particular projects. And it looks like that's something that the drinking water program at least had a greater capability than we do. So I would just encourage you to keep sort of those things in mind. And then finally, at some point, I think, as the dust settled on the transition, I will again be looking at Ms. Turgovich to address the question of how do we add to the performance report a tablet, a component for drinking water. How do we look at integrating the drinking water program into some of the efforts that we've been trying to do, for example, like the resource alignment, asking the questions of what are the priorities, how are the resources allocated, are the resources being directed toward those priorities, and how are those priorities tracked, measured, and reported. So just a heads up that in a few months' time, Ms. Turkovich, I will be pushing on you for those kind of discussion, along with obviously Deputy Director Forbes as well.
I do want to just point out as well that we have been very thankful for the drinking water program's presence. And in fact, in the conservation reports that we've been bringing to you each month, it was the drinking water program and staff in the drinking water program in particular that were able to get that moving so quickly for us. And we use their systems, their databases, and they maintain it for us. We all maintain it together now. But we are really trying to reach out and take advantage of those tools where they exist.
Yeah, I do think that in keeping with what I think Tom first referred to as making the whole greater than the sum of the parts, there's a lot of opportunity both ways, so I appreciate you bringing that up. I also really appreciate the time you've been able to spend. I have to say that all of my encounters with folks in the drinking water program, both in the field and in the senior team, I've been incredibly impressed, and so pleased that they're so happy with the transition with everyone who's helping them, whether it's directly or with them just appreciating the can-do. I'm looking at Darren here. The can-do spirit of how can we make this good thing happen versus why we can't, and as well as their clear expertise and energy and commitment to public health and all that. I just think that the whole definitely is going to be enlivened, and we'll have to look for ways in order to really bring that together. I mean, and bring more of the people together. I sense a holiday party moment coming on. Ms. Turgovich, of course. Maybe we can assign somebody else that sort of potlucky kind of thing. Well, man, Michael will do it. You can bake. You can just do it all yourself. Yeah, sorry. But we'll all work together on that. But I think that'll be a great thing.
I had a senior moment and forgot I wasn't here on the 4th because I was on vacation and I was in Rome and Amsterdam, and I had a fabulous vacation. But I hit the ground running when I got back. I got back on Thursday night, and Friday morning I was giving a talk in praise of David Sedlak and his work on recycled water for the Clark Prize down in Orange County. And there were lots and lots of students there for this my part was not technical, but for a fairly technical presentation on recycled water. So that was very good. On Monday, the following Monday, I went to the advisory committee meeting that is advising the Blue Ribbon Committee that was set up by legislation to develop regulations for surface water augmentation with recycled water, and to look at the feasibility of doing direct potable. This was right on the heels of the drinking water, or the water quality program of the state board having a meeting in Orange County at SWRCB with NWRI and with the foundation that's associated with water reuse, looking at priorities for research. And so for those of you on the board who have not looked at the reports, They should be out fairly soon. I was told it'd be about a 2-week turnaround time for reports from those breakout sessions. Everyone was it was, I say the buzz. It was more than a buzz. It was like it was raucous. Everyone was so excited about the 3 entities working together and the board facilitating that engagement. So on the recycled water front, there's lots of creativity going on. I spent 2 parts of 2 days at the end of last week in Ventura for the California Resources Conservation District annual meeting, and did some presentations on, again, where collaboration with agriculture and water quality and federal and state agencies is occurring. And again, it was a very positive meeting, lots and lots of interest in what the water boards do. But I was coming at it not so much from the water board perspective, but from the collaboration perspective, and that was good. In yesterday, we had again, in the collaboration context, we had a meeting of the water energy team of the climate action team, the WETCAT, where we look at water energy issues, and it was held over at Food and Ag, and Karen, the Secretary of Food and Ag, was there, and there were some fabulous presentations about things that work well in terms of conservation and particularly about conservation. And so there's some ideas that I definitely want to talk with both the financial assistance folks and but also in water quality, and particularly water quality, and our ag program, to make sure that we're keeping up with some of the latest thinking on conservation, because there was actually a very convincing presentation done by a fellow who has walnuts. He has a walnut grove, and he has an aerial sprinkler system, rather than, he's taken out his drip, and his berry drip as well as his micro drip, and he's growing cover crops, and it's incredibly it's much more, he says it's much more energy efficient, it reduces GHGs, and it's better for water conservation. So that was one of the very interesting presentations that I got. Thank you.
Great.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So let's see here. Last week, I did a presentation before the Stanislaus County Water Coalition on groundwater, and I am happy to report back that although there were concerns raised, I also heard a lot of positive comments from the group that they want to make this work. So I'm sensing, as I'm out and about, a little bit more of an acceptance in the areas that are going to probably have some challenges. Last week, I toured the SAC Regional Wastewater Facility to see some of the upgrades that they're working on. Many. It's a big project. And I know my fellow board members, or for those that haven't been there, that you're interested in getting there at some point. So I won't go into detail. I know it's best to just see it. But also, just thought I'd mention that they've got a really interesting biosolids project that they've had in place for a number of years. And so it was good to see that project as well, and the end product that is used as fertilizer. The Grazing Regulatory Action Project, GRAP, those meetings are continuing, and I was able to participate a couple of weeks ago in 2, one with industry, one with environmental organizations, and then last week I participated by phone on one with academia, and then also government agencies. And then the last one is, for those of you that might be around, Friday, December 12th, and that's with the tribes. And I think for the most part, I've learned a lot. It's, of course, nothing is simple, but the discussions have been going well. And Region 6 is leading up those discussions. They're working on the development of the GRAP, and I think they've done so far a fantastic job with outreach. Also last week, I attended another meeting with CV Salts, and I know I keep reporting on this, but one of the main reasons I do so is that I get the sense that sometimes those that understand this, which are very few, we're in our own little world. I don't know that I can even include myself because this is very complex, you know, a system to figure out, you know, compliance with salt and nitrate management issues, and putting together creative solutions that are win-win, and hopefully will be able to get us sooner and more effectively to safe drinking water for the communities that really need it. But one of the things that I talked with sort of in sidebar discussions some of the folks about was trying to get better messaging on this, because this will be, hopefully, they will be reporting to us in January, I believe in our January meeting, on the progress, and Darren Polhemus has been very actively engaged, and, you know, that's been real helpful for the group. But just to get the word out, because once they do present something, hopefully with a nice little ribbon tied around it, then it's going to be very involved getting folks that haven't been part of the discussion to understand what is this and why does it matter to me?
Agree, and the intelligibility of it, it's kind of an inside baseball sort of thing. So
Right.
it does, I think that's a good point.
Right. And then the last two, maybe you all have already reported on this. So yesterday was just a fantastic,
Yeah.
inspirational day here at the APA building. Mono Lake at 20, the 20th year anniversary of the decision. It was a kumbaya day, and also a great opportunity for better understanding and clarity on public trust, the development of the doctrine, and also where do we go from here. Our board chair provided some great opening remarks, Michael Loeffler, Andy Sawyer, so big participation from the board, but also the community at large, and it was just terrific to be part of the group yesterday. And then yesterday, board member Moore and I participated in a meeting that staff had with some of the stakeholders that are working on implementation of frost protection. Did you already report on that? Okay, so lots of good questions and some exciting creative ideas, so stay tuned. I know these discussions with staff committed to quite a few action items in follow-up with the stakeholder groups in Sonoma and Mendocino counties. And then there is a forum that's being put on the 24th that board member Moore and I will be attending, and staff, where the growers will have an opportunity to hear from our staff, and also those that have some of these creative ideas in moving forward, and they'll also receive an update on curtailments at that meeting.
Great, and thanks for the great job you did yesterday as well at the Mono Lake proceeding. It was really a great day. I was sorry to have to miss a big chunk of it in the afternoon, though for good reason, as I'll talk about. But they did record the meeting. A lot of people who were there are in the audience actually today. But we will. There's an opportunity if you weren't there to actually see it, and I look forward to catching up with the parts I missed. It was really good to just immerse. It's hard to get away from water metaphors in the topic, because public trust is one of those things that requires a certain level of thought, history, consideration, and so I thought it was really a well-organized symposium and very thoughtful. The other point, obviously, that's always a good space to bask in is that of unlikely allies overcoming their divides, and the Mono Lake series of conflicts, because it's not been one big party ever since, is always a really good one to look at, just because of the hard-fought views and the unlikeliness of the whole thing, and the creative solutions that people have worked out, unfortunately sometimes time and time again, but that is the nature of reality, and so being reality-based is something I favor which just requires persistence, I think was the word that was used yesterday, and the persistence of the participants in that has really been inspiring. It was a great day. The other thing, I have been doing a number of, I won't get into all of them, just talks largely about the drought, but also about the Water Action Plan and the things of a piece about the fact that we do need to take in all of the above strategy, and we don't have a lot of time to keep spouting rhetoric at each other, but this is the time for making decisions, whether relentlessly incremental or big and bold. We need to be moving, and I'm happy to be a part of a time that we're seeing movement in the water world, and that means we have to bring each other along. And so I've just been trying to get out there and talk with folks, whether it's the resource conservation districts or students at Cal State LA or various water law conferences and the like. So that's been a lot on my plate lately. The other two things I did want to mention, and for those of you in the audience who don't understand why we're doing this, the five of us can only talk together when we're out here in public. And so at Board Member Dodek's suggestion a couple of years ago, we started actually doing this more formally rather than occasionally, and it's just important to us to get a sense of who's been where, because we can't all be everywhere all at once. So we are a five-headed body, but we can't talk together except out here, so bear with us as we have these conversations. Two other things I wanted to mention. One is the reason that I missed part of the Mono Lake conference is because the Delta Program Implementation Committee, the committee of department, senior department folks across the state government that deal in the Delta, was initiated eventually 6 months ago by the Delta Council, and I saw Randy Fiorini walk in, the chair of the Delta Council, a little bit earlier, and I see Sam in the back, Harder from the science. I always think of you as Mr. Toxics because you speak my language, but in any event, and Dr. Goodwin, who's the head of the science program. We had a convening of senior level people from a variety of departments talking about what things we needed to work on together in this incredibly complex arena of the Delta. And 6 months ago, we came up with certain priorities. We thought it was important for all of the agencies to have not a single view, but to be coordinated on. You can't coordinate everything. We wanted to prioritize. A lot of it was about prioritization. And a couple of the areas we talked about were levies, financing, and science in particular is the one I focused on. And so with a lot of good diligence, a lot of work on the part of Randy, but also on part of the team, we heard reports on a variety of subjects. And I won't go over all of it. There's very impressive work being done on Delta levy prioritization and coming up with the tool and expertise, et cetera, to figure out how to deal with that whole complex of issues. It was really very well done, not done, but in process, very impressive work. On the science side, talked about pulling together the science in there are a whole host of, I'll share with you the PowerPoint without going over it, but they interviewed all of the agencies to say what are the things that would be most useful in science. Our staff had given a suggestion on 5 things. Others had done the same, and they came up with a list of things, including having a web-based way to look at who's doing what research on what in the Delta, even just to have an access to knowing what's being researched, a host of other things, and perhaps we can actually have a presentation as opposed to me talking about it. But I just thought it was just an incredibly good program. Also talked about figuring out a better way to coordinate the efforts around the YOLO bypass, a robust conversation about that. That was actually good, given that when we're talking about floodplain restoration as something very important, getting some focus on it versus a lot of separate processes all going, not necessarily at cross purposes, but not in a coordinated way. A lot of discussion about that and a number of other things. So it was just a very, I thought, productive meeting because of all the work that had taken place at the agency conversational level in the preceding 6 months. So I was just very pleased to see it, and it was an important thing. And we have a number of follow-up action items from it that I'll get back to staff, which were good. And then the final thing is just to let you all know that there is the program for the Executive Fellows program. We actually put in an application to try and get one of the major agencies that hasn't been going for an Executive Fellow historically, so we did apply for one, and Ms. Turgovich and I spent an incredible amount of time interviewing candidates. We had gone to speak at it's kind of an interesting thing because they pick you and you pick them, and then it gets sort of sorted out, so it's a bit of a competition, but we had gone and spoken to a group of fellows, I guess, last week or the week before, and then we did a lot of interviews early last week. It was a big chunk of time. We put in our preferences. They have put in their preferences, and at some point this week, we'll find out who we get, if we get someone. I'm assuming we'll get someone because so many people applied, and then we'll find out, and that person will start Friday. I know. And so we definitely volunteered all of you to be helpful in mentoring this person, just so you know. Figured you'd say yes, and the way it will work is Karen and I will be the lead for the person, and part of it is to give them kind of an overview of all the different things we do, and as you know, that can take a couple of years, so we're going to have to figure out, how to focus it, and it'll very much depend on that person. They will do ride-along, so to speak, with me, and hopefully with you all as you think of things. It would be good to bring a fellow along, and then they will choose a project or two to really dive deep so that they actually are working on a project that they can own and work with staff. And I can't tell you which it'll be because I have no idea who we're going to get. So just stay tuned and start looking at your calendar for things that would be cool for a fellow. We had a surfeit of really impressive applicants. So
I would suggest that, as you say, we should look at our calendars and think about what might be of interest to whoever it is. And I assume we can give those, like if we pick one or two things that we think would be really interesting for a, I assume most of these are PhD students.
Yeah, some of them are graduates. There are some that are just out of college. Some are. There's
okay.
a couple lawyers, maybe one or two are lawyers. So,
Okay.
yeah.
But come up with a couple of ideas so that when they do come on board, there's already a kind of a preset list of things that they might get from any one of the
Right.
five of us.
Yeah.
I would just suggest that depending upon who the candidate is, they may have certain desires in terms of the area that they want to focus on and certain skills as well. And I'll provide all that information to you, and you can then tailor the areas that you think might interest them.
Right. Everybody wanted an overview. Some had different levels of expertise already, whether in and interest, whether in, gosh, it goes a whole range of. I mean, they pretty much ran the gamut. So, and they're all very nice. So.
A question, I guess it will depend on who the fellow is, but one of the things that I would want to ask is, because having worked with some fellows in the past, some were interested in working on a specific project and producing something, a report, an analysis, a set of recommendations. Others were more interested in getting a broad overview of, broad experience. So I think until we know who it is and what their interest
We were
is.
very clear that we would give people an overview and that we wanted them to do a couple of projects and dive deep.
A couple, okay.
Yeah.
How long are we going to have this fellow?
A year.
Okay. All right. Extra hands on deck. Perfect.
Right.
Yep, good. I thought of 3 things already.
I think the hard thing is going to be helping them narrow their focus, so we'll see. So thank you, and thank you, Ms. Turgovich, for all the time you've put on that. It's going to be great, I think. Good energy, too. Okay, thank you all for that time. I'll give you a little bit of the proceedings. We have a couple of very large items on the agenda and quite a few updates. I think it's going to be a very, very full day. We will take a couple of short breaks just to be kind. And we will take a lunch break at some point because I know some may want to go. There's the Ag President's Lunch. I am not going to be able to make it. There's too much. If you'll give my apologies, that would be Terrific. So we will take a lunch break, but it may not be the whole hour, but we may just have to, I don't know how many of you are going. I know Dee Dee will definitely want to be going. So we'll take a break probably directly at noon. Is that all right? And then come back. We may come back before 1, but that's what we'll do. Anything else schedule-wise I need to? All right. So let's move into the agenda. We have uncontested items 3, 4, and 5. Any cards? All right. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Any opposition? I didn't hear any. Okay. All right. Great. And now, one of the items we have many people here for, and that is pretty darn important, is our update on the drought. Who's taking the lead?
I believe that Les Grover.
Les
gonna take
and-
that?
I'm Kathy Maroka, and I'm going to provide the update on curtailments for you today. So I have good news. We've had some rain, want some more. This week's looking pretty good for that. So we had sufficient rain that we were able to release the curtailments through pre-1954 rights on the Sacramento and San Joaquin River watersheds. So that was very good news for us. We're continuing to evaluate each storm event to see if we can lift additional years of water rights on those watersheds. We have good news on the Russian River watershed. We lifted curtailment there. We had previously temporarily lifted curtailment on Eel River, and that continues in effect today. Scott River curtailment remains in effect, not yet lifted. And on Deer Creek, we have a curtailment for 50 CFS for fishery purposes. So flows in excess of 50 CFS can be diverted, but not those below 50. So we hope to continue having good news on the curtailment effort for you. I saw Bill Croyle from Department of Water Resources here today. I just wanted to reach out and thank them because they loaned us staff, along with the regional board loaning staff for our curtailment inspections, and most appreciated.
I have a question. Okay, so Sacramento, San Joaquin on post 54?
Pre-1954 water rights.
Right, but on post,
Yes.
what are you expecting as far as the coming event? And when should we stay tuned?
Well, we have parties right now asking us if we can parse it out like through 1958 at least and things like that. So we're very significantly reviewing all the time to see if we can make the cut for some parties that are very, very interested in their specific dates. We're expecting additional news as soon as we are comfortable with the storm events coming through and we have good forecasting, good, rain showing up. Like I have told parties that have come to us and asked us questions, we can lift curtailments 7 days a week. We run our analysis constantly, we get our predictions. We're happy to do it the moment we're able to.
Right, but just to be clear for anybody who's listening over the web, this doesn't mean the drought is over,
No.
because we haven't gotten that much
Right, we
rain
have
at
not.
all, and it's a function both of the fact that we've gotten a bit of precipitation and that demand has dropped off because the irrigation season is down. It's the demand-supply curve. It's not that all of a sudden we have a bunch of water.
Right, and you're exactly right, because we have a large number of irrigators whose irrigation seasons ended October 31st. So on November